Welcome back to Chess and Magics. Let's take a look now at the 7th round at the German Youth Open under 25, where I had the white pieces and we got the Sicilian opening and then a very fascinating endgame. So let's take a look. So we got the so-called Pausen or Taimanov variation, and I just improvised here. I wasn't prepared at all, so I just enjoyed the last rounds and I played the move b3. And he answered with d5, and I vaguely remembered that white now gets a slight edge after takes bishop b5 check due to a quick development advantage. And after queen e7, after some 7-8 moves, we already have an endgame. And here I took back with the bishop just to keep more pieces on the board. He protects the pawn on d5, everything logical. And here, of course, I can play some normal moves like short castle or long castle. But I immediately saw that I can try to attack him directly because I have a slight development advantage. So after knight b5, I was expecting, or at least considering knight a6 and king d8. After king d8, I have bishop e5, threatening knight c7. And after knight to a6, I have a very, very comfortable position. I can play something like long castle and d4. I can play d4 immediately. And I think I have a very, very nice and stable position. And yeah, some other move will, for example, knight c6 will allow bishop c7 check. King goes away, and then bishop d6. If he were to trade, he will lose the f-pawn, and my knight will return to the center. And if he's not taking, I will take myself and then threaten knight d6. So it's quite fascinating tactical motives here. So he ended up playing bishop b5, which was actually a bit impulsive because after bishop b5, knight d7, knight e5, he still has the same problems. And here he fought for a long time and found rook g8. I think it's one of, maybe it's the only move, because after a6, there's this really, really nice tactical resource, knight d7, take on d7. Sorry, I should first start with bishop takes, it's more forcing. Bishop takes d7, knight d7, knight d7, king d7, bishop g7. And after rook g8, I have the very nice move bishop to e5, after which he cannot take on g2 because of bishop g3 and king f1 winning the rook, or at least equality. So this is a very, very nice detail. And then he ended up playing rook g8, after which I tried to open fights due to my development advantage. d4, a6, takes, knight takes, bishop d3. If he were to take my bishop on b5, I just win a pawn on c5. So he took on d7, bishop d3, g6, dc5, everything good. Bishop e2, knight e4. And here I think I have a very nice, comfortable advantage. I have the two bishops and the isolani. And now I just completely started to play wrong. I did not really think enough here, and I just overlooked so many things. I played rook d1, allowing bishop b4 check, king f1. Now my rook on h1 is a bit awkward. And after long castles, I even played bishop f3, allowing knight d2, and now I'm already worse. In a matter of 3 moves, I'm just worse. And yeah, I just had to fight for a draw here for equality. Rook e6, bishop d4, rook g1, h4, bishop e3, okay, everything normal, h5. Black is slightly better, but not much. And now a very critical moment, but of course I should have played rook g5, which was my idea, but then bishop e7, rook d5, bishop h4, and it's kind of drawish. So didn't want that. And then I was so clever, and I thought I could play king e2 because I attack his d pawn, and after rook e5 I have the move c4, very nice. And after bishop f4, I thought something like rook d3. But first of all, here d4 is just good. And also just missing bishop c5 is inexplicable. But yeah, this can happen when you have a tiring event and you don't have a lot of energy left. So I just blundered bishop c5 that he has this d4 threat. I thought rook d3, but of course he has d4. So that is very, very simple. So yeah, this can happen sometimes. So rook g5, takes. I'm just a clear pawn down for nothing. And probably here, rook e7 was a good move, a4. Probably here he should just try to go for my pawns and yeah, just try to get active himself. But instead he played king c7, and after rook d3, I consolidated. I have no weakness now anymore. And the funny thing was that after rook c6, I was getting optimistic. Can you find a very interesting plan for white to even push for a win with the pawn down? The position is objectively equal now, so you can even try to play on. And I found this very nice plan of activating my king. I played king f4, after which my opponent played b6, and after king g5, he got very nervous and offered me a draw after rook c6 with a pawn up, and this indicated to me that he's very uncomfortable, so I played on with a pawn down. Remember, activity matters most in endgames. I have the control of the rooks, I have the active king, he has the passive one, and my king tries to sneak in, maybe some f5 ideas. And after f5 himself, he is just close to losing now because this pawn is weak, and I have the idea of getting my rook to g8, and also sometimes cutting the king off. And after rook c3 check, just 40th move, getting some time back, I went in confidently, and after rook e1, king g6, rook f1, rook d4, prophylactical move, I'm winning here because I win one of these pawns, and the passed pawn will promote at some point. Played rook e4, check, and now after trade f5, the pawn is unstoppable. f6, check, takes. My rook can always come behind or behind the passed pawn from his side, or come to c2 to stop the pawn, so there's no reason to rush here with something. Just rook c2, prophylaxis, king g7, and now after f8, queen takes, he resigned. So yeah, that was a roller coaster game, but it shows again how much important activity is in endgames, and you should really keep this as the highest priority for your endgame play, and I hope that you will have a lot of wins with this most important principle. So I hope you enjoyed this recap. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, and of course, as usual, don't forget success through chess. See you. Bye bye.